The Chinese physicians generally uses the feeling of the pulse and looking at the person's tongue and outwardly body appearance as a mode of diagnosis for illness. But do you know that in the ancient time, Chinese physicians actually know how to diagnose if, let's say, the illness is of a spiritual cause by feeling the pulse. And if the illness is of a spiritual cause, they normally may administer what you call the 13 ghost point acupuncture, whereby there are 13 points in the human body, and if the acupuncture needles is systematically administered to these 13 points, it will actually drive out whatever ghost and spirit that is possessing the person. In other words, it is like a form of exorcism. But this art is quite lost in today's practice. In today's Chinese physician, we don't hear much about such diagnosis anymore. However, it's quite interesting that I have discovered some of the Western doctors who become Chinese practitioners know about these 13 points, and I'll link their videos in the description box below. But anyway, I do follow a very interesting channel by a person called Master Bo Xin. He is a Chinese physician based in Hong Kong and China, and his talks are in Cantonese. He shared an interesting story about the 13 acupuncture points. What happened was that he was in a hospital assisting a healer who is doing a treatment to a patient. Now this patient, he basically fell down on a creek of water. It was a shallow creek, and he had terrible injuries, and he was in a lot of pain. There are standard protocols to treat such patient, but regardless of what the hospital tried to treat the patient with, he didn't get better. So the healer suspected that it could be due to spiritual cause, and he decided to administer the 13 ghost point acupuncture on this patient. As he began and he was doing point by point, when he reached the 4th or the 5th point, he heard a very stern female voice telling him, "This is none of your business. Back off." He was taken aback, and then he stopped the treatment. And then he asked the man, his patient, "Have you done anything wrong towards a woman who now come back as a vengeful spirit?" The man got a shock, and what he did is that he actually went back to his hometown and went straight to the grave of a woman and cried and apologized. Later it was found out that the story behind this was, this man was born in a small village, and in the village he knew a girl. So he was going out with the girl. Later he decided to seek a better life in the city. He promised the girl that he will come back and marry her once he's settled in the city. When he go to city, of course, life was very different from the village, and he forgotten about his promise. The girl was very heartbroken and angry, and she took her own life by drowning. Now, Master Bo Xin say in his talk that it is not easy for a person to commit suicide by drowning, because there is an instinctive urge to survive. And automatically, when a person tries to go into the water and drown themselves, and once their lungs are filled with water, by reflex, they will want to rise up to get some air. But that feeling of anger, that disappointment in that woman must be that great that she was able to control that instinctive urge to go up, to go for air, and she drowned. After she passed away, she became a water ghost. She was able to travel through the medium of water and ended up affecting the man when he happened to be at the creek of a river at another city. So eventually, after going back and apologized and crying at her grave and filled with remorse, his condition was very much improved. So I do find this to be quite an interesting story. However, if let's say a practitioner or a Chinese healer or any healer understood the spiritual cause of illness and try to drive out the cause of that illness, they may get into some problems, because if they do that in a way that they are interfering with the give and take account between the patient and the entity or the spirit that's disturbing the patient. Now imagine you put yourself in the spirit shoes. There's somebody who has done something that harm you or hurt you, and you associate that you are in that form because of that person. Another busybody come along and try to drive you away or try to catch you or try to exorcise you to save this person. First thing first, if that person or healer do it, now it is a give and take account, a karmic link between the spirit and that patient. Now the healer is involved already because the healer is interfering with the karmic condition between patient and the spirit. So normally the spirit will go after the healer. That's why many healers will fall sick when they heal beyond the protocols. Like some healer, they have a bit of sensitivity and intuition when it comes to healing, and they apply the intuition when they do the healing, and by doing so, it is very effective. I do find that a lot of illness have a spiritual or at least partially to be attributed to a spiritual cause. But it is going to affect the healer when the healer is involved in this kind of practice. It's very different with a doctor. What the doctor do is that even of traditional Chinese medicine, physicians are doing nowadays is that they are just administering based on what is in the textbook. Means that if let's say the person is having this kind of imbalance, then if you observe that the face and the tongue and the eyes have these symptoms, then you administer this set of medicine. And if you go to a Western doctor, the doctor look at your symptoms and then the doctor prescribe certain medication. So they are not doing it because they have an intuitive understanding of what is happening and able to sense energy. They are just following protocols. This so-called normal healing method to cure the patient, the doctors or the Chinese physician would not fall sick from it. This video is just to give some insight to explain the possible reason of why sometimes you may observe that a lot of healers actually get sick and die from illness. It's not that they are not good in what they're doing. I think sometimes they're just too good in what they're doing that because of the interference, they inherit a lot of karmic links and negative energies from the patient that they're healing.